Perspective on caregiving. I'll go ahead and let everybody introduce themselves, and why don't you go ahead and briefly share your caregiving experience.
Hi, I'm Ashley Shaney. You've met me already, but I have served in the role as a caregiver to my parents at one point or another, to my grandmother. I am the guardian of my mother-in-law currently, and I have helped hospice various members of our family.
I'm Rosalie Miles. I work at Visiting Nurses. Ashley's my daughter, so I'm sure she'll make fun of me at some point in this. But I have watched my mother take care of my grandmother, and then I took care of my mother, and she's going to take care of me sometime.
Hello, everybody. I'm Cynthia. I am currently caregiving to my mom, who has pretty significant Alzheimer's. I've been caregiving for the last 15 years because I caregived for my father until he passed away. And I have three teenagers, not teenagers, but three children. And I have an adult sister who has intellectual disabilities.
Hello, I'm Kathy Bennett, and I became a reluctant caregiver for an estranged family member who had nobody else to help, so I dove in, and so I have a lot of perspectives from that angle.
Great, thank you. And so this year we really wanted to try to focus in on that sandwich generation of caregivers. So the title of this panel is kind of, I'm too young for this stuff, because a lot of people don't realize what all is entailed. Even when you become a caregiver at an age that you may think it's an appropriate age to be a caregiver, you don't know what you need to know until you need to know it. So that's why all of these different perspectives are great. So Rosalie and Ashley, since you guys are related, how has caregiving shaped family relations across the different generations?
I think that...
Can you talk up into the mic?
I think it's kind of started with, say, my mother. She took care of my grandmother, and she worked so hard.
Me taking care of her.
And she made herself sick and got mono at a very older age, taking care of my grandmother, which had to then go into the nursing home at that time. That was many years ago. And then as my mother got ill, my brother watched her for a period of time, but he would put her to bed at 3:30 in the afternoon, and she stayed there for the rest of the day. When that kind of came about and found out, I ended up having to put her in the nursing home because she lived in northern Maine and I lived down here. So then after that, my husband became very ill and passed away within 7 months. And so I took care of him throughout that process. Oh, and then when my time comes, I have a daughter and a son. And my son won't take care of my dog, so we're not going to count on him.
So I think when we talk about how that has shaped the roles for the female children in our family, right, is it's my mom is one of six, 5 boys, 1 girl. Can you guess which one is the caregiver? In our work, we see a lot of very lovely male caregivers. So I say that in a jest, because that doesn't apply to all families, but it does apply to ours. That I was shaped to know that is kind of the role in our family. My brother is not going to be a caregiver. And my daughters, I have 2 daughters, one is 19 in college and one is at home. My youngest often makes jokes that I shouldn't mess with her because she'll be pushing my wheelchair. My oldest is not who I would have typically thought to jump in a caregiving situation. She's very good at a lot of things. That's not necessarily her role. But recently we had a situation where an elderly friend of ours needed some help after a surgery, and she was visiting. And she got into some real personal care for that person. And I was blown away. I was shocked. This is the girl that will not touch any type of bodily fluid and passes out when she sees somebody else getting their blood drawn. And so I was shocked. And so I asked her about it afterwards, and she said, that's how it works, right? Like, you did it with your grandmother and your mother when she needed help, and Grammy did it. Like, that's what we do, right? So that's how it shaped our family in providing care in that sandwich generation, seeing the care that's provided by those before us.
Cynthia, how about you? Was your mom a caregiver for her parents? Are your kids watching you do this for your mom and for your sister?
So my mom's parents died at a young age, so she didn't care for her parents. It was, I'm the youngest of 8 kids, and I'm in the healthcare profession. So it pretty much was going to be me, and I willingly accepted it as because I wanted to take care of my parents. So it just kind of fell into that way. And then my kids, I think, a silver lining is that my kids are watching me take care of my parents. And that's, a good thing and a bad thing, because I don't want them to maybe per se do it exactly the way I've done it, just for their own self-care. But I appreciate the fact that they're seeing me, take care of my parents, and I think that's a good, a lesson.
Okay. Okay, so how about some good things about caregiving? Any of you can jump in on this. Are there any silver linings, or what's the most rewarding parts about being able to either help that estranged family member or the loved one that you are still connected with?
So that's a good point. So this estranged family member, during COVID, lost his job, lost his health insurance, became estranged from his family, and it all, believe it or not, had a happy ending, but it did reunite the family in a way that I wouldn't have expected. And more so with some in-laws that I hadn't been in touch with as much, and now we see each other all the time, we talk all the time. So it, in a weird way, ended up being a good thing.
Helped bring family together.
Right.
Yeah.
But thank goodness they were willing to be involved.
Right. Anybody else?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. Just anything good from, silver linings, anything good.
Well, I guess the good that's come of it is because I know that my parents have been taken well care of. So I don't have to worry about the quality of their care. I know in my heart that they're being taken care of really, really well, and so that gives me joy. Rosalie?
I have nothing.
I think if there's a good thing that comes out of everybody else that I've taken care of before we get to her, is that I'm a much better caregiver now than when I started. I feel bad for those when I first started taking care of people.
So you've learned a lot.
Sometimes.
I hear you. Okay, so what about, yes.
I guess my question is, we're talking about caring. What is that caring? What do you see that you are caring for your grandparents, or is it day to day? Is it more than that? Just for people that are new to it.
Right.
What does that caring mean?
So what did you actually do?
Yeah, so I think that looks different for each scenario that I've been in. If it was my father-in-law, I was providing daily care for him when he was on hospice. My stepfather, I would take lots of phone calls. He'd get very anxious if she went to go grocery shopping, and so he would call. And I had never spoken to my stepfather so much in my entire life as when she went grocery shopping or out of the house. So that was a new connection, and that was actually a gift, I think, at the end. And then for my mother-in-law, a lot of it is remote. She's up in Grafton County in a nursing home. I get a lot of phone calls. Can we increase this med today? Can we do that as a guardian? So there's been other folks in between, but I think it's varied depending on what it is.
as Ashley was saying, when my husband was ill, super ill, he was very by himself. But when I left, he got very, very anxious. And I spent every day at that time, I was on FMLA and took time to be with him. And it was during COVID. So it was a very difficult time at that time. But yeah, he, you know, it was difficult, I can say that.
So caregiving for me is really everything. It's putting out fires. It's like, well, not technically fires. It's finances. It's meds. It's personal care. It's every day. It's, you know, it's transfers. It's mobility. It's pretty top to bottom. Currently, with my dad, it was phone calls all the time because of his anxiety. So there was a lot of phone calls coming in for him, and then just the personal care. So.
In my instance, it was more of I would say, a faux social worker type of work where we needed to find him a new place to live, sell his house, get him medical care. And the other two family members lived in Portland or Portsmouth, so a lot of it was on me, again, reluctantly. But they were able to do things like drive him to doctor's appointments and make phone calls and get him qualified for disability. So we all did what we could do from where we were. You know, I didn't want to see my sister-in-law driving, 160 miles round trip to see him to do something when I could just drive to Tamworth and do it. So by working together and being honest with each other on, like, I just can't do that, I can't drive at night, that's my sister-in-law, we were able to preserve our friendship so that we only blew up at each other once, which, if anybody knows me, that's something, because we were able to talk to each other honestly about what we could and couldn't do.
Did that? Okay. Awesome. Okay. So now, how about the realities? What about some emotional and physical challenges of caregiving? Cynthia, you've got the microphone.
Caregiving has been very challenging. I don't want to get emotional, but I have 3 kids. I have a husband, a full-time job. I have a sister I care for. I have a mom who I care for. So, and I don't ask for help. And that's a big challenge that I still really haven't learned, because it's one of those things that it's like, it's easier just to do it myself than to ask for help. I'm bad at it. I don't promote it. It's not good. I was diagnosed with cancer 11 years ago, and I honestly feel like, we supposedly all have cancer cells, and I think the stress induced my cancer. So even despite that, I still didn't do a good job taking care of myself. So it's taken a toll on me physically. It's taken a toll on me emotionally. So it's kind of, I don't really have any, honestly, positive.
Well, I asked you for the reality, the challenges.
I work with folks every day, and my goal is always to give them the best possible resources. And so I have worked actively to apply that to those that I'm taking care of. And so I feel grateful in having that knowledge and that experience. I know that you don't want to talk to this, so I'll talk to this for you. It was hard watching my stepfather not accept help. So in this case, which is different from Cynthia's case, where she's having trouble asking for help, he wouldn't let other people help. My mom was his only help. So other than the phone calls, which was respite for her, he would not let any of us help care for him, and he would not let the home health aides come in from visiting nurses. And that was really hard to watch. I hope she'll accept help when the time comes, because I think we all need it. She says she has work for me this afternoon. So I think that was the hardest reality so far in providing care for people.
As far as realities go, the impact it has on work, on finances, on your other relationships.
Yeah, so I'll address that first because I'm here. So in some of these instances where we were the same caregiver for the same person, we both work at visiting nurses, so we had to alternate our time or figure that out. Sandy was lovely in helping to provide that. In other instances, like my mother-in-law, that was a lot of work, and I'm hoping that you will all stay for the talk with our attorney speaker today, because there was so much I didn't know, and we had to go through the process of guardianship, and that is a lot. And I thought I knew a lot about guardianship, and then I didn't. Very simple things like I live in Maine, she lives in New Hampshire. You cannot apply for guardianship for somebody in a different state without having a resident of that state be appointed by the court. So if I skip out on court or I don't show up, there has to be somebody else in your life that lives in the same state responsible. Thank you, Jennifer.
I'm responsible for Ashley.
She is my parole officer should I skip court, just so you know. So there's things that financially, paperwork, the time-consuming parts, even though I'm not physically providing the care to my mother-in-law, she has very lovely people at Grafton County that are doing that. It's a lot. It's for a short amount of time until it's all in place. It is a full-time job in addition to what else you're doing. So I definitely encourage you to pay attention, get all your documents in order. This could have been solved with a power of attorney, and it wasn't. And so it took a lot of work.
So how it impacted work, finances, okay. So if I'm in a unique situation where I have a sister who is high level, intellectually disabled. So without her, honestly, it wouldn't work because she's available to, if my mom's sick and can't come to this lovely adult day center, then she stays home. So, if I didn't have my sister, then I would be taking time off from work. And then, relationships, I think the first thing that comes to my mind is my wonderful husband. He's married into this, and I've taken on all this responsibility, and, he's the one that takes the back seat, which, is hard. But fortunately, I have who I have, and he's understandable and he's supportive, but it's definitely taken a toll. And then I think just when I think about my kids, and I live this stressful life, is that they definitely see it, and they wreak that if I'm stressed and overworked and in a bad mood.
So it definitely was a huge time-consuming, all-consuming situation in my instance. And my husband's a saint, and he was all in and helping me, which was exceptional because this strange person was my ex-husband. Because it was the right thing to do. So I was all in, and we did it, and I work for myself, so I was able to make time for it. But it was rough. It just brought up a lot from my earlier life and, why we got divorced. And so but I felt it was the right thing to do, so I did it, even though there was a huge emotional cost. And we were leaving on a month-long vacation by a certain date, so I had said to my husband, I will be done by this date. And then we did that, and I was able to hand everything off before I left, so I set a deadline.
Made me think of your vacation. So this is something that I wish I had known. I've been doing this work for a long time. And Jennifer and I both work a lot in the community to make sure folks have advance directives in place. Hopefully you all know an advance directive is a document that helps somebody make decisions for you if you can't make them for yourself. My mother-in-law did have an advance directive. She also did have a DNR. She had made the decision that based on some health conditions that she had, that she wanted to have a do not resuscitate order. We have worked really hard, Jennifer and I, to make sure that people know that your advance directive is pretty reciprocal on the East Coast, right? So if you go from here to Florida, wherever, they pretty much will honor that. But a DNR is different, and this is something that I learned in this situation. In Florida, they have something called a DNI. We also have that in New Hampshire, but only certain doctors use it. That means do not intubate. So in New Hampshire, your DNR allows you to check off what you'd like to happen, right? I don't want intubation. I don't want respiration. I don't want mechanical intervention. I don't want a feeding tube. But it's not specifically that order. So when she was on vacation, she contracted what they believe to have been meningitis, and we still to this day don't know because that was ruled out, and was on life support. And when the doctors called, and my husband, who was her decision maker, really wanted to honor those decisions for her, he could not because the doctor said, you don't have a DNI. And so then started a journey of life support to where she did recover enough, but spent time in 3 different rehabs. And then we had to physically get her back from Florida to New Hampshire. I am happy to say that she has progressed enough that at the end of this month, she will be back to being her own decision maker, and we will no longer have to be her guardians. But that was a really hard thing. So if you have your things in order, or even if you don't have them in order, there is a document that's called the POLST, P-O-L-S-T. Your doctor can help you fill it out. It has to be signed by a physician. People at visiting nurses can help you get the right forms. That includes the DNI portion. So if you are traveling or somebody who travels often, imagine just going somewhere and swimming in some water, and then within 3 days, you're on life support.
Do you wish you'd had when you were taking care of your mom?
I wish my 5 brothers would have been more helpful. And I came of a town of 15 people in northern Maine, so there
Did you
wasn't
say
a lot
1-5?
1-5.
Wow.
I think there's 1-0 now. So there wasn't a lot of people that you could turn to. Most of them were her age. So it was, not an easy process for her. And then, as Ashley said about my husband, he didn't want help, and so that made it very difficult. So, but I'm glad that I helped with both of them very much.
Okay.
I just want to start by saying the support that I do have, and this is a shout out to the Adult Day Center and visiting nurses, and I could get emotional again because I could not do it without them. And they're 2 beautiful organizations that I could not do it without them. Like right now, I'm sitting here because visiting nurses supplied a home health aid for my mom. So those are the supports I do have. The supports I wish I had was those 7 siblings I mentioned. I know everybody has challenges, and I know I'm local, but I wish they had any insight on what the impact it's been on my life. So I'm a little bitter. I love them, but I'm bitter that they have not stepped up to help me and help their parents.
I'll just add, my mother died of dementia when I was 32, so that was just a few years ago. And I'm the youngest of 4, and I was the only one that didn't live in the general area where we grew up, and I was the only one involved in my mother's care. She ended up in a nursing home, but still, as you know, there's a lot to do in terms of coordinating care. And my brother famously said, "I'll see her at her funeral." Did not visit, totally left it on me as the youngest, and that made me bitter as well.
Yeah. So, here's a good question. Has the healthcare system or healthcare policies made it difficult to be a caregiver, to care for your family?
So the way, financially, my mom doesn't have like a nest egg. She's got really nothing. And so we have home health aides 3 days a week that fortunately through a grant, not because insurance pays for it, we are allowed to have, home health aides come in and help. Again, I could do it, but it's a help to help have them come in. So that that's a barrier in our healthcare system, is that there is limited support that can be paid for these elders. She has insurance, so that's good, but it's that extra stuff that
Gives you respite.
Right, exactly.
The VA would have been more helpful to my grandmother if there were more providers. As she said, she grew up in a town with 15 people in population. I also think that you were related to half of them, weren't you? Think about it, there were 6 of them. So I think that the system would have been more helpful, and I think the VA does a really great job for folks as long as they can get providers. And so I don't know that that was the fault of the system as much as the fault of there's just not enough people to provide care. Medicaid has helped incredibly in my mother-in-law's situation to pay for a nursing home. If you're not familiar, a nursing home is in the state of New Hampshire, starts at $10,000, and that's generally your county nursing home, and then goes up from there. So that is not something that the typical person can afford, and I was fortunate enough to have a network that was really helpful in helping me get through that process, because I help people every day, but when you're in the thick of it, it's a different scenario. Also, when you're the family member, it is a different scenario. So this is where the system is broken, is I have avenues that in my professional life that I can call somebody at the state and say, listen, this paperwork has been submitted and this process has been delayed, and I can advocate for those people as a professional. As the daughter-in-law, I can't abuse that. And so I had to go find my own advocates, because even though I do this work every day, I know how hard it is to call and you sit on hold for 38 minutes just to find out whether or not a document is still needed or not, versus that phone call that I can pick up the line. So I very much encourage everybody to find an advocate when you need one, because we have some tools. We can't solve all the problems, but we have some tools. And now, having been on both sides of that, it's terrible. It's really terrible. I mean, every client has always told us it's terrible. There is 2 grant funds in Carroll County. It's actually statewide, but we hold the grant for Carroll County through the Bureau of Elderly and Adult Services. One is called the Title 20 Block Grant that is income dependent, and that's for some light homemaking, so groceries, laundry, that type of thing. We're not coming in and dusting your knickknacks. People ask all the time, we don't do it. And then there's what's called the 3B grant, and that is for folks over the age of 60 that need help with personal care in their home, and they cannot afford to provide that care, and it's need-based. There is wait lists at different times for that funding, but we always encourage people to call if that is something that you need. And the purpose of that program is to provide intermittent care. So we're not coming every day, but maybe we'll provide a shower to you once or twice a week, 1 hour, one time a week, 2-hour homemaking visit to do your grocery shopping, that type of thing. It doesn't replace that daily care that a lot of folks need, and then often you need to apply for Medicaid if you can't afford it. Just out of curiosity, because I'm going to put on my other hat, the one that explains this, a show of hands, if I asked you, I don't know how I want to word this, I didn't practice this, man, who thinks that hiring somebody to come in to do personal care is about $25 an hour? Oh, you guys are on it. You think so? Who thinks it's about $30? Who thinks it's about $40?
Well, it depends upon if it's private or you go through an agency.
Right. So right now, through visiting nurses, to have a home health aide come out for a 1-hour visit to shower you, it's $38 an hour. And the cost of that covers a lot of things. It covers the nurse, because a LNA has to work under the license of somebody else. It covers the person to schedule them. It covers the person to, covers their gas, their mileage, their insurance, all of that. And we are one of the least expensive agencies in town. So when you think about aging in place and what that costs for care, that's why grants and Medicaid and that work that we do is really important, is because most people cannot afford that, but you have to prepare for it either way, all of that, right? But she doesn't always remember to take them. And her granddaughter has like set Alexa, so it says, remember to take your pills. So
I did that.
oh, well, she was done with us ragging on her. But queuing is something that qualifies somebody. So if you have to queue somebody to wash all their bits and pieces in the shower, then that's a qualifier. So it doesn't mean you're physically manually getting in the shower with them and getting yourself wet, but you're queuing them to do something. So I think a lot of times when somebody isn't eligible in a medical eligibility interview, it's because you don't know the words to use. So when they look at things, they look at mobility, how somebody gets to and from. If you have to cue your loved one to use their walker, because who knows somebody with a walker that just gets up and walks away every time? Yeah, there's a lot of hands for that. So bed mobility, how they eat, mobility in general. What am I missing here? What's my OT got here? Toileting, bathing. Grooming, shaving, right, all of those things. If they need help with pulling up their Depends, right, or remembering to change their Depends, those are all queuing things. That all counts towards medical eligibility, but if you don't use those words, then they don't check off the right boxes, and they may say they're not eligible yet, but they're not going to help you become eligible, if that makes sense.
So who tells you the right words when you need to know that?
So hopefully you call somebody, right? Hopefully you get involved. Generally, it doesn't happen just overnight. Sometimes it does, like in the case of my mother-in-law. But sometimes it's a skilled referral where visiting nurses is coming out to see you. Sometimes they've had to go to a rehab stay. Sometimes they've had to go to a hospital stay. Request those medical records. Request specifically the OT and the physical therapy, PT and OT occupational therapy records. They're going to tell you, because they're really good at it. Cynthia's an OT for the VA. They're very good at telling you, is it queuing? Is it partial assist, full dependence? Any other words?
You covered it.
Yeah. So, and it's going to tell you right in there, that is a guide. That's where they were. You can determine, are they worse than they were when they were in rehab 2 weeks ago? Are they worse? Are they better? And then you can use that as a guide.
So we actually have to wrap up here because our next speaker is on Zoom, zooming in very soon. But last question. If you had to go back and do it all over again and be a caregiver, because we've heard the good and we've heard the tough, would you do it?
Yes, I would do it, but there are good and bad to both of them, and I don't know what to even say about that. So my mother was easier because she was a gentle person. My husband was a little more difficult because he wasn't a gentle person.
Yes, I would. Again, my dad was full of anxiety, which made it very, very hard seeing him in that turmoil. My mother is sweet as pie. She's beautiful. Just personality-wise, her personality hasn't changed with the Alzheimer's. I would do it again, but I guess my parting words would be self-care. And it's easy to say, it's harder to do, but if you want to get through it, okay on the other end is to practice self-care.
I'd do it again. I wish we had seen the warning signs earlier and could have prevented some of the pain and hardship that this family member went through. So, keep an eye on your loved ones, and if you start seeing a slide, don't wait until it's a complete crisis and you've got the police on the line. That's what I wish.
That's great advice. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
And